Hey guys, welcome to another episode of California Ant Keeper. It's the beginning of August and we got a ton of rain in July. A whole bunch of species flew over the desert last month, including honeypots, leafcutters, and a bunch of other species. I hope you were fortunate enough to get out there and find some after one of the big rainstorms. Today I'll be doing an update on my high altitude Camponotus and how to care for them. And this first clip is when I very first showed my Camponotus curcicola. This was just a few months ago, but this colony is doing so well now. They are doing so well that today I'm going to have to open up another section of this nest so they have enough room. I noticed the day before that they were taking brood out into the outworld, and that's a telltale sign that it's time to expand their nest. Alright, let's talk about high altitude Camponotus now. So when I refer to a high altitude Camponotus, I'm talking about a Camponotus species that comes from a place that snows during the winter. To name a few high altitude Camponotus, we'll start with Levismus, Levigatus, Modoc, and Bacinus. There are many more species of Camponotus that fit into this group, but it would take too long to name them all. Next, we'll talk about how I catch these queens. Typically, these queens fly in late April, early May, but honestly it has more to do with the weather. What I do when it comes time to catch these is I check the weather daily to see when is going to be the first really hot day in the mountains. Typically I'm looking for a temperature spike where it reaches about 85 degrees, but I also want to make sure that it doesn't cool down too fast that night either. The reason for this is because the Camponotus will fly immediately after the sun goes down, usually about 8:30 to 9 o'clock. During this window of time you'll have to work fast to catch as many as you can because they will disappear shortly. Alright, so this clip right here is where I open up the new section of the nest. All I do is pull out that tab. I apologize for the format. I actually filmed this whole video in this format and I had to go over and redo everything. But I'm honestly really surprised that the Camponotus didn't storm in as soon as I pulled the tab out. As you can see, it took a while before the first worker walked into the new chamber of the nest. Waiting. Waiting. Not yet. Ah, finally they found it. I was also surprised that it took a few hours for the Camponotus to choose to occupy this area. Alright, back to how to care for these ants. So you caught your high altitude Camponotus, now what? It's time to put it into a test tube. These ants do very well in a test tube and they have high success rates of making it to the first workers. Alright, now that you got your Camponotus in the test tube, it's time to put it in a nice dark place so it can get to work on making its babies for the next 3 months. I wouldn't check on your queen more than once a week during this time period until the workers arrive. Alright, so I really only have 2 colonies of high altitude Camponotus that are more than a year old. And here's the second one. This was my Camponotus Bacinus colony. This is actually the first Camponotus queen I ever caught. I caught her up in Mount Baldy the day after I knew they had a flight. Buddy told me about it, so I went up there and I flipped a rock, and sure enough, there she is. And you can see the dent on her gaster in this view. She did just lay a fresh batch of eggs, but they have it all hidden in that right little corner where the plug goes to the tar heel ant's nest. I'm really surprised though that the Levismus or the curcicolas actually passed this colony in the amount of workers by far though. I also boosted this colony, which means I gave it brood from another colony during the first year, so that could have something to do with why this colony is growing a little slower. Now let's talk about temperature when it comes to high altitude Camponotus, because this is very important as well. These species do very well with temperatures from about 75 degrees to like 82 max. The closet that I keep these ants in stays about 78 degrees, so I never heat them because it's just right. I wouldn't recommend heating these ants unless the temperatures of the room you're keeping them are very low. However, I do put a heat cable against these nests when they first come out of hibernation, just to give them a head start. That brings me to my next topic, hibernation. Hibernation is very simple, and I know it intimidates a lot of first-year ant keepers, but it's very simple. Literally, all you have to do is make sure they have sugar, their nest is hydrated, and stick them in the refrigerator. I would check on your ants every 1 to 2 weeks because the nests tend to dry out really quick in the refrigerator, and mine did, so I was filling up mine about once a week. And just make sure they have sugar too. Also make sure your refrigerator doesn't go below 32 degrees because that's freezing point and you literally freeze your ants to death. And just about any nest is suitable for Camponotus, just as long as it doesn't get too wet on the inside. If you see condensation forming, that is definitely too wet for Camponotus. Alright, looks like my Camponotus curcicola slash lavismus are doing great, and they're moved into their new chamber well, and they like it. So thanks for watching my video, guys, and stay tuned for next time when we have some new desert leaf cutting ants that I just got. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.